Our next speaker comes to us from Illinois. Ms. Kim Cessna will be sharing with us, highlighting the Illinois chapter, which was our chapter of the year this year. So congratulations to them. Welcome to Kim. Give it up for Kent.
Oh yeah, good times. So I did lose my voice, but I'm pretty loud, so I'm not going to have the microphone. But I will introduce myself. My name is Kim Cessna. I currently don't have a job. Or I retired, but I like telling people I don't have a job. I was a law enforcement officer for 28 years. I retired from the Illinois State Police and knew nothing about cops. She gave me a microphone, but knew nothing about cops until my coworker. I lost my first coworker from the state police May 12th of 2006 and became involved in cops when our chapter came through with this little bike ride in 2007. I've since lost numerous coworkers. My most recent coworker was just last year in March of 2021. So along with getting chapter of the year, the good thing is you have to do a presentation. So yeah, good times. So wait, let me get the clicker here. So I'm just gonna run through this. Please let me know if you have any questions. It's very informal, but I want to talk a little bit about our chapter, highlight it, some of the things that works for us, some of the things that don't work for us. So here we go. Our chapter was established in 2005. We have a president, a vice president, a secretary, a treasurer, and executive liaison officers. I know that every COPS chapter is different, but this is what ours consists of. Board positions elected every couple years, and in conjunction with our annual meetings, we always try to have some kind of an outing. Some work very well, some do not. Some cost us a lot of money. Our most recent outing, we were down in we only have one COPS chapter in our state. It's outside Chicago, believe it or not. So we try to have our meetings throughout the state, north, central, south. Our last meeting was south, so we went to a St. Louis Cardinals baseball game. We also have listening when we met with Connie Moyer as our region trustee, and so when we met with her yesterday, it was great to network to see kind of what other chapters did as far as fundraising, things like that. We always have, in December, we have what we call our annual appreciation dinner. We made what's called a Blue Flame Award, so we'll give that out to a business, an individual, and then a department. So 3 different awards. That's just something that we do. Our president is Keith Dorwart. You can read, he's the surviving son of Deputy Craig Dorwart. Our vice president is Debbie Wiseman. She's a surviving sibling of Iowa Trooper Mark Toney. Dave Johnson's here. He's our treasurer. He's a surviving brother of Rock Island police officer Todd Johnson. I'm the secretary. I'm the surviving coworker of Sergeant Rodney Miller and Todd Hannikin. And then our executive liaison is Eric Stacy. He's the surviving coworker of Officer Jeremy Chambers of the Cahokia Police Department. So that's what our board looks like. Our chapter, within our chapter, we established what we call the Critical Incident Memorial Team in 2015. Sadly, there was such a need for that. So a couple people were instrumental in getting that started. I also serve on that team. And then we also have the Cycle Across Illinois. So those are the 2 things primarily within our chapter that we do. The Critical Incident Memorial Team, and you guys know the stats, but in 2021, there were 520 line of duty deaths. There were 9 in Illinois. 2015, again, we created this team basically just to transition our survivors into this new role that nobody wants to be a part of. That's kind of what we do. We also build those relationships with the law enforcement agencies, assist them with completing and submitting the paperwork, the PSOB. I didn't know anything about that. I just signed up for Hope's, one of her Zoom seminars, and learned so much. And then Knox County had a line of duty death, and I actually helped them with those PSOBs. So, and our Critical Incident Memorial Team also, we meet people through that. We grow our COPS chapter through our CIMT team. We have active retired law enforcement on our CIMT team. It's not an elite group. So we try to have survivors. We try to have law enforcement officers. So We try to avoid it to be very cliquey. Those are some of the things that I hear, that you guys are just such a small group. But we do expand. We're trying to do a northern, central, southern part of the state. So then that way we can all encompass everybody. So to date, we've assisted with 19 line of duty deaths in Illinois. In Illinois so far this year, we've had 5. 4 have been from COVID, 1 has been a felonious death. So as of today's date, we're looking at 5 in Illinois for this year. I'd like for it to stay that, but those are just some of our members. Again, we have police officers from a variety of places. These are some of the departments we've assisted. I'll go through there. If not, I'm going to be done in like 5 minutes. I'm usually not a fast talker, but the Tazewell County Sheriff's Department, Fox Lake Police Department, McHenry County Sheriff's Department, South Jacksonville, Pontiac Police Department, Chester Police Department, Bloomingdale Police Department, Cook County Sheriff's Department, the Hometown Police Department, Fulton County Sheriff's Department, Hampton Police Department, Champaign Police Department, Chicago Police Department, Brooklyn Police Department, Pontoon Beach, Wayne County, Bradley, and our most recent one was Knox County. So those are all the departments. So essentially what our CIMT team does, there's a group text activation. So when any of us hear about a line of duty death, one of our team members will go. We will respond to that department. We will talk to the chief. We will introduce ourselves. Somebody's always assigned to the family. And then essentially we're just there to handle any questions that they have, to assist them in any way. It's a purely volunteer thing. None of us get paid. I always joke with my husband. I was like, this is the most unpaid volunteer job that I have. So, but I wouldn't have it on any other way but strangely enough, none of us take a salary. None of us, it's all a volunteer basis. We devote our time and our money just to assist these agencies. But I think the flip side of that is so many more people know about C.O.P.S. and what C.O.P.S. stands for, what their mission statement is. And we just build that relationship from the get-go. That carried over because we'd already met these departments and these family members. That carried over through Police Week. Each of our families got a liaison officer, so most of our people already knew our families. So our liaison officers in DC were instrumental in saying, hey, I had the Hannikin family. They already know me. So that helped our chapter out tremendously. So our CIMT team is invaluable when it comes to building those relationships within our communities. I live in a town called Danville. I call it D Vegas because per capita we have a very high murder rate. But anyway, D Vegas, that chief of that department knows nothing about us. And I was like, well, that's sad. So it's my mission, my personal mission. I put a PowerPoint together, kind of things about what C.O.P.S. can do, what we can do for you. And if you'll give me a half hour at your Rotary Club, I'll go and I'll talk to them. I'll talk to anybody that will listen about C.O.P.S. Because I think that's just instrumental in getting our name out there and what we do and what we can do. So our cycle across Illinois, I have a triathlon background. I'm a 4-time Ironman finisher. Not that that matters, but I love to ride my bike. So I was like, all right, how can we blend all that together? So in 2005, 17 cyclists started cycling around the state of Illinois. We usually start in Alton, which is southern Illinois. We travel to Chicago. In a 4-day period, it's just shy of 400 miles. So we just got through with our ride on Sunday, hence the cool tan lines. So this year, so when our ride started, again, it started in 2005. It's a 4-day, 400-mile bicycle ride. It honors our fallen law enforcement officers in Illinois. It starts in Alton, ends in Chicago, and we stop along the way. So we used to ride the same route. Now we're branching out and trying to assist those families like, hey, Knox County, how are we going to get there? And so we stop along the way, spreading our mission, everything about C.O.P.S. Our ride dates were July 14th through the 17th. Like I said, we just finished on Sunday. Our participants, we're not We do kind of vet them, but they include a mixture of law enforcement officers, retired law enforcement officers. What I think is kind of cool is we also allow the families of law enforcement officers that were killed in the line of duty. So this year we had an overabundance, sadly, of family members that participated in our ride. And it was neat to welcome them into our, so this year we had 95 riders and 30 support. That's a lot of people to try to get from point A to point B, but it works tremendously. I know I talked to Ohio and some other chapters. This might not work for your state. I know Michigan does something very similar. It works for our state because there's a lot of crazy people in Illinois that will ride a bicycle in July when usually the crops are up and the humidity is high. So, but again, we raise awareness of our chapter along the way. We get donations. We, I think, just shy of taking in under $2,000, just people on the street handing us donations of like, hey, what's this? My mom was so excited. She goes, I got $50. I'm like, perfect. So here's a t-shirt. So anyway, this is our largest fundraiser. I'm curious how other chapters, I like coming here because I like to see how other people raise money, because I know that eventually, I hope it will never, but eventually this well's gonna run dry, right? We have to have something else that's going to bring in this amount of income for us. But we offset those costs. We try to as much as we can. The main thing is when I first started this ride, we slept in the Alton Mental Health Center. It was very creepy. I brought my handgun. I cleared every room. It was creepy. This place is condemned. It was by far the worst experience of my life, the Alton Mental Health Center. I do not recommend it. So we stayed there. We slept on a cot in a training room one time, literally just next to each other. There was no showers, just a male and a female bathroom. We stayed at the Lock and Dam one time that had these little animal noises. So we'd be like, cue the deer, and then they shut it off. So we never went back. I don't understand why, but so we used to stay in universities. Universities used to house us for a very minimum cost. Then COVID hit, right? So then the universities were like, nope. So then we moved all these, I'll use the term, princesses to hotels, and now they can't go back. So a majority of our cost for this ride is housing and food. It takes a lot to feed 130 people. So it was my mission. Out of our 12 meals, I got 11 of them donated. There was one meal that we paid for, so it's hard, right? I'll ask anybody for money. I mean, there's no shame. I'll just be like, oh yeah, how would you like to sponsor a meal? So, but yeah. And I think that, and maybe Dave can attest to this, it's hard to put that ride into words. We had a Champaign officer, he had 4 daughters. All of his daughters did this ride. Trying to just verbalize to them what this ride is about, what it means to them, it's hard to do that. And they're already like, they're still riding their bikes. They're sending me pictures. They're like, I rode 19 miles a day. And so it's inspiring. I'm inspired by them. This ride humbles me every year because I'm humbled by people that don't usually ride a bike, that aren't very athletic, but will get and pedal, for 400 miles. So that's what the ride does for me personally. But again, I love the people on it. And so this was what we looked like in the beginning. There's 17 of us there. Dave is only one of 2 people that have done all 18 years. So we only have 2 people that have done all 18. Dave Johnson's one of them. So this was in front of the Rob Hardesty building in Springfield. I know a lot of you know Tony Hardesty and their daughters. So this was taken in front of the Hardesty building in Springfield. This is 2021 at the Joliet Speedway. They let us do a lap on our bicycles on the track. So anyway, it was a lot of fun. So yeah, so that's, I didn't have time I did the PowerPoint before this presentation, or I would have uploaded our most recent photo, but again, this year we had 95 riders and 30 support people. So how do we raise our money from our cycle? Our riders are required to raise a minimum of $800 to participate. Our support members are also required to raise money. Everybody's like, well, that's kind of dorky. They're doing you a service, but it is a fundraiser, right? So our support members are required to raise $500. They raise money by selling T-shirts, challenge coins, patches, socks. So I brought some. I always like when people think outside the box, and I'm like, hey, what else, what else kind of Gucci stuff are you gonna, we're all about who can outdo each other in this C.O.P.S chapter. So this year we sold C.O.P.S socks. We partnered with this company called the Sock Guy, so we sold socks. We actually sold some patches, some Illinois C.O.P.S chapter patches, so we sold those. We sold some Junk headbands. Junk is a company that makes like an athletic headband. We sold Junk headbands. We have a girl that in our little inner circle that has a business that makes these mugs and these fascinating things, so she made some mugs for us. I know some of our people sold black and blue bracelets. And last but not least, we have our Cycle Across Illinois coin, and we also made some luggage tags, believe it or not. These things sold like wildfire. I'm like, wow, just a little generic luggage tag. So those are some of the things that a lot of people did for fundraising, different kind of things. It takes a little bit of work, but it's well worth the effort. We give prizes. This year we did a door prize. Cops like free stuff, right? So every night we did a door prize. We play a little game called Heads or Tails at the end of it, and you'll see one of the prizes we gave away there. So we try to give prizes to the top individual and the top fundraising. Our top fundraising team this year was Champaign Police Department. They lost Officer Chris Oberheim, so they had 10 members of their police department participate, as well as the 9 members of the Oberheim family participate. So they were our top team. And our individual was a guy that works for Pella Windows. So he was our top individual raiser. So all that being said, here's our money, here's our proceeds. So in 2005, I know it's a little small, but in 2005 to 13, we did a horrible job at keeping records, right? I became the co-chair last year because they were like, hey, you have copious amounts of free time. You ain't got no job. Co-chaired this bike ride. I was like, so we're getting better about record keeping, but 2013, we raised just shy of $60,000. You can see in 2021, we raised $125,620. That's after expenses. So to date, our C.O.P.S chapter has received over $804,000 from this bike ride. So it's a lot. And I can tell you, I know what the figures are because all week I've spent trying to match up money and books and all that stuff. We don't say what our bike rides raised until our appreciation dinner, which is December 3rd. So that's an incentive for people to come to find out how much money we've raised. But I can tell you it's upwards of $150,000, and I'll leave it at that. So, but yeah, that's why, again, this is something that started very small, but it has worked for our chapter, and it continues to work. I already have people that are like, am I in for next year? Or, I'm like, so I got about a week off. I was telling Connie our first planning meeting for next year is tonight at 7:30, and I'm like, so I had 4 days off. So anyway, some of our activities, again, we always try to plan an activity after our chapter meetings. I know I got some great ideas. I'll steal anybody's great idea, right? So got some great ideas after talking to some of you guys about. We've done baseball games, we've done hockey games, we've bowled, we've done painting classes, we've done picnics. This was our first year we tried our own Candlelight Vigil. We kind of mocked it off of the DC Vigil because some of our people don't want to travel to DC, aren't physically capable of traveling to DC. So we partnered with, used to be the 100 Club of Chicago, now it's the 100 Club of Illinois, and we partnered with them this year. So that was our kind of our activity was our Candlelight Vigil. We actually had more people attend our Candlelight Vigil than the meeting. I was like, this is weird, but all right. That's the reality, right? It was windy, cold, candles wouldn't stay lit. I'm like, of course not. So, but it was well received. So we wanted to be cautious about saying it was our first annual, because I don't know if we're going to continue it, but we put that feeler out there, and it was a great success. So again, I told you about the Cardinals baseball game. I'm not going to lie, we lose money. We have people that are like, oh yeah, give me 5 tickets, and then they don't show up. So that's very frustrating, right, as a chapter, when you're like, all right, you have to spend money to make money. We spent money, and then they're just like, oh, no, sorry. But, you know, along with that, I don't know that it worked. In Washington, D.C. this year, we went to a Nationals game. A lot of people like that. The Nationals we have a lot of baseball. I could take it or leave it, but anyway, we have a lot of baseball people in our chapter, and so they were like, let's go to the Nationals game. And I think it was just too much trying to get people, because it was that Thursday, and trying to get people there and settled. And so that's a lesson learned on our end, that yes, an activity is nice, but it was a lot to cram in. So note to self, keep that in mind, because people wanted to go, but they ended up, their flights got canceled and delayed. And so lesson learned on our part. We do have the C.O.P.S Appreciation Dinner every December. It's the hottest selling ticket in town, I like to say. This year we had 225 people attend. It cost us a lot of money because it was in Chicago, and we try to flip-flop it. So we went north last year, so this year we'll go south, which is Springfield, which is our state capital, so we'll do that this year. And then we do what's called a Blue Flame Award. Essentially, it's a little acrylic plaque that says we recognize a business, an individual, and an organization for what they've done for our C.O.P.S chapter. You guys probably do something similar in your chapters, but some of our activities, I mean, look at these excited people. This is a baseball game. This is a minor league team. It's in Bloomington. We had a meeting in Bloomington. It's like a Corn Jerkers, I think is the name of it. They play on the campus of Illinois State University. That's a true story. We have Santa come, so Santa does exist. That's the table for our appreciation dinner. That's our bowling event. Again, another baseball game. So we talked a little bit about the Candlelight Vigil. There wasn't a real cost associated with the vigil. I mean, we had to get the candles, obviously. We were able to print the flyers up, but the 100 Club of Illinois, like I said, we white fight it, right? So we just found out, just partnering with them, it has worked well for us. So they were just 100 Club of Chicago, now they're the 100 Club of Illinois. So partnering with them, because we're 2 separate entities, right? So I always tell people that, you know, we are 2 separate, we do separate things. They don't want to do what we don't want to do what they do, but it's nice to have that partnership. In Knox County, I had a PSOB question. I was like, ooh, I don't know. So I called the 100 Club. They were able to answer it. So it is very nice just to have that relationship, to build that relationship. I feel like we fought it for so many years, and now we're just partnering with them, which is really nice. So, but again, we have a police officers memorial in Springfield. That's where our vigil was, and it was very well attended, very well received. So we talked a little bit about our liaison officers. Deb Wiseman took Police Week on, and that was a big task for us because we had 13 families that we sent to Police Week, so we had to have a lot of liaisons. There we all are. Oof. So, but we each were given 1 or 2 families, acted as the liaisons for not only our police officer ceremony in Illinois in May, but also for National Police Week in DC. And so, any questions so far? Hearing none, moving on. Just kidding. I give you like 1 second to answer a question. Are you really that cool? Yes, I am. And again, I could not even imagine National Police Week taking that on, but I did serve as a liaison. I knew a couple of the families, some I did not. Some I met at Police Week, and I'm like, man, this family's really cool. So that's one good thing about being involved in the chapter is I do get to meet all the families. And, you know, everyone's like, oh, Kim, you know everybody. I was like, well, I'm kind of loud. But I kind of just go up and introduce myself. But I've got to know so many great people that way. But again, logistics. We helped with the check-in process, with logistics, with making sure they knew where they were supposed to be, what their options were. We also struggled with well, I've never been to DC, I want to sightsee, you know, so we struggled with that as a chapter as well. We had the Zoom meetings, those worked out well. A lot of our people don't know anything about Zoom, but because of COVID are learning. So we did Zoom with the chapter, or with the departments, the affected departments, and then we did Zoom meetings with the surviving family members. We did them separate, but it benefited us because then I could say, hey, I'm Kim, I'm your liaison. Everybody in Illinois knew me, but some of our other liaisons people had never met before, so that gave us an opportunity to put a name with their face. We met them at the airport, and then I heard other chapters say, you know, they had different people stationed at different places. That wasn't us. Like, if I was your liaison, I went with you all these places. So it worked well for us. That was our nationals game. It was pretty well attended. We were able to, snacks are a big thing for me, so we were able to not only give you the game, but we gave you like $20 worth of snacks. So people really like that. So it was like trading cards. Well, I got $4 left. I got $3 left. We can get one hot dog. So, but again, that was our first year families, and they did enjoy it. It was bad timing on our end trying to cram everything in. So lesson learned. It's a great idea, but it was a lot of work. So what helps our mission? I say this about Mission Barbecue. They are a business that treats us well, extremely well. Mission Barbecue has locations throughout Illinois. I know other states also has a Mission Barbecue chapter. They have been amazing to our C.O.P.S chapter. They sold these hero cups, and they always give like a firefighter charity and like a police charity. We happened to be the beneficiary of being their police charity chapter this year. And so those where our Illinois stores are. They're in Springfield, Peoria, Downers Grove, Naperville, and Gurnee. Again, they made Illinois their hometown hero cup sales. And during a 6-week period, they gave us 18 grand for selling plastic cups. So that's pretty impressive. I got a phone call, and it's from Keith. He's like, so one thing I will say about our board, and I don't know how you do this if you have a full-time job, and kudos to you if you're on the board and you have a full-time job. I don't have a job. So my husband ain't got no job. So we are 2 jobless state police employees collecting pensions. So, but anyway, so I recognize that of the 5 people on their board, I'm the only one that ain't got no job. So when those people call me and say, hey, Kim, you know, what do you have going on? Can you run to Peoria, or can you run to Springfield? You know, Mission Barbecue has a check for us. I'm like, I'll go anywhere if there's money. Even if there's not money involved, I'll go. So I drove over to Mission Barbecue. They had like a $6 grand check for us. They had another $7 or $8 grand in Springfield. So, but by the end of the day, and so I invited some of our C.O.P.S members. So all those people in that picture are just our surviving family members. And I sat, and it was humbling for me because, okay, I grumbled. It was like an hour and a half for me from my home. Again, I live in the murder capital of the world, Danville, Illinois. But this was not close to my home, but it was humbling because I sat for 2 hours with these people and I listened to, hey, what would you like to see? You know, what can we do? What activities would you like to do? You know, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? And from those people that have been in our chapter a while, it was very knowledgeable on my end, and I took that back to our board and I said, hey, look, this is what we're doing right. This is what we're doing wrong. You have to have very thick skin, right? Like, people are going to tell you no a lot, but if you keep going back, they're eventually going to maybe have an interaction with you in a place that we got a donation from an old folks home. I'm like, where'd this come from? Like, I don't care, but I don't know how it happened. I don't know how that, you know, someone in assisted living heard about C.O.P.S, and I was like, holy, this is amazing. So a huge shout out if you have a business that I know that Iowa has talked about. Anyone from Iowa? I know that Iowa has talked about doing a similar program with Mission Barbecue. Kudos to them. We did nothing. I like making money when I don't have to do anything, right? Like when when I show up and you say, hey, here's a check for 18 grand, I'm going to be like, holy cow. Yeah, so very impressive. So we also, some of our other fundraisers, and again, we're trying to, I call it marketing our brand, right? We're trying to, what else is going to work for our chapter? I've heard some great ideas. We host a Run to Remember. It's called the Illinois Valley Striders. They host this Run to Remember. The Mission Barbecue also hosts a law enforcement friends and family night for us. We have a Cops and Hot Rodders car show. Never thought those would go together, but they work well for us. McHenry County has a law enforcement golf outing every year. Their proceeds come back to cops. Naperville Police Department sold these glass cups that just had our cops logo on them, and that proceeds came back to us. Sundowners Car Show. Chicago Police Department fundraising event for Cycle Across Illinois. One thing about Chicago, as you can imagine, it's its own state. It's very difficult to get into their PD, and not by anybody's fault, right? But we're finally, I can say after years, breaking that barriers. We're helping them with some paperwork. They're reaching out to us when they have line of duty deaths. Chicago's lost a lot. You know, they're overworked. They're canceling those guys' days off. They've had a bunch of suicides. So kudos to those guys for reaching out to us finally. So we're finally breaking down that barrier between Chicago, Cook County, and they're kind of opening up to our COPS chapter. So we host this is a big thing in Southern Illinois. They have the International Defense Pistol Association Championship. We are the beneficiary of that. Don't know how that happened, but they have this event every year, and their proceeds come back to us. Again, you saw the junk headbands, because I like that company. I work out a lot. I never have my hair down. In fact, it will go up after this presentation. But I was like, why can't they make one for cops? So we have a Back the Blue barbecue event, and we partnered with a company called True Patriot Care. We hosted a 4-day event with the benefits proceeding our organization. So that was just up in the northern Illinois, and it was, they came up and they set up a flag for every, Deb Wiseman spearheaded that. I know I'm not doing it justice. Sorry, Deb, if you're watching, but kudos to you for that event. They set up all these flags for every law enforcement officer that's lost in Illinois. They did like a motorcycle run. They did like Zachariah, you know, the Running for Heroes. He came and ran, and so she spent a lot of time on that. That got our name out there, and that in the northern suburbs. So I call it marketing our brand. We talked a little bit about it. I don't know what else to call it other than you have to sell yourself. I was amazed when I saw that 300 and some odd thousand in COPS merchandise. I was like, how come that can't be us? I'm not gonna lie. It's like, what can I steal? But yeah, I'm all about Gucci stuff, and I'm all about, you know, we're always, you have to spend money to make money. We do spend a lot of money as a chapter, but you know, giving someone a $5 patch or a $10 patch, they'll remember that, and you know, they'll take that back to their departments, and people will be like, oh, where'd you get that? So those were our ride T-shirts. Again, we make them every year. We sell them, you know, they're $20 a piece, so that can go towards your fundraising goal. So, and again, I like when people thought outside the box. We had a girl in Springfield that has a lady that makes jewelry, so I'm not a bracelet person, or I would have put this on, but she makes these black and blue bracelets, so we sold those. If an opportunity presents itself, take it. Again, if you're gonna call me about a Rotary Club, they're like, hey, Kim, some Rotary Club in Southern Illinois needs someone to come and talk about cops. I was like, I'll do it. I tore my Achilles, so that didn't happen. It happened, I tore my Achilles, but the Rotary Club talk didn't happen. So someone else from our chapter went and took care of that for me. And again, partner with law enforcement friendly motorcycle groups, church groups, local businesses, et cetera. We meet a lot of people because of our bike route. We chose to go a different route this year because of the officers that we had to honor. But it was a pain for the co-chairs. I co-chair with another guy who's an Oak Brook officer. And it was a pain for us trying to organize those stops, but we got so many more contact people, and they're already calling and saying, hey, if you guys come back next year, Aurora Police Department, after the Monday after our ride, they've had 2 COVID deaths, and they said, hey, you guys are coming here next year, right? And I'm like, give me 2 days off, chief. So always have a business card with you. Again, I travel. My other passion, I'm very passionate about scuba diving. My husband and I go all over the world scuba diving. We got ripped off in Bonaire. I'll tell you the story. I've made everybody check their rooms. Check, double check, check. So you're welcome. But anyway, always have a business card with you, because even in a third world country, man, you can flip that thing out and they'll be like, huh. They'll Google you. I think this is the next slide, but this is just us. We worked a car show, kind of pimping our stuff, selling our stuff. Northwestern has a Center for Public Safety. It's kind of like a traffic, it's kind of is modeled off the FBI National Academy. I never went, so I'm sorry if I'm not doing that justice, but they always pick a charity of who to raise money for as a class. This year it was Illinois C.O.P.S. They gave us 10 grand. So that class raised $10,000 for us. And again, that's the co-chair of the bike ride. All it took was for us going there and accepting the check. So you never know where money's gonna come from. This is a hot item. We found a guy in Springfield that will make these boards for us. And so that's what's given away at our heads or tails game the night of our bike ride. And now people are like, where can I get one of those? And I'm like, oh, we gotta figure out how to work this. So, and then the Kiwanis Club, again, you know, $3,000 here or there really adds up. So Kiwanis gave us money. These are just people going to different events. There's an event, it's called the Midwest Securities Expo. It's held up in Tinley Park, Illinois. We knew nothing about this group. They called and said, hey, do you want to set up a booth? I was like, So we had to buy a tablecloth, and we had to, so I was like, what are we gonna do? But we made more contacts at that with the chiefs coming up to us. And I didn't even have my own business card. I was handing out other people's business cards because I'd forgotten mine. So I was like, here's a business card. It's not me, but they asked us to come back this year. I was like, well, we must have done something right. So they waive our booth fee. It's in August in Tinley Park, but we just connect with chiefs that way. So that's another thing we do. We did the trick or treat. Mike set this up. They had like the trunk or treat up in his hometown, so he set up a little, just something very simpler, something simple that had our logo on it. That's a guy he's the co-chair of our CIMT team. I put him in because he was supposed to be here, but he couldn't make it. So again, you never know where you're going to get the funds. And then a big part of what we do, we also sponsor people we pay for all of our people to go to our retreats. So because our chapter has that financial stability, kind of, so to speak, so we then can say, hey, have you ever considered going to coworkers or parents retreat? The girls from Champaign, I was so thrilled. They came up to me, they said, hey, Kim, and I said, what's going on? They're like, we're going to Georgia. And I was like, oh, so they're headed to St. Simon's Island, Georgia for the young adults or whatever verbiage that is, that retreat. But we encourage people, hey, you could benefit from the coworkers retreat, from these different retreats. We sponsor all 12 of our hands-on program because we can as a chapter. So we encourage our people to get involved in kids camps and, I'm talking too long. Okay, I will wrap this up. So anyway, one thing about social media, when I came to training last year, we simply, the donate now button or whatever, we didn't have that on our website. Dave reworked our website. You'll be amazed at the people that click on that says, when it says donate now, people will do that. So that's about it. And finally, I will end with this. Our chapter is successful because of the people. Again, both our current and our former board members, as well as our surviving family members, make our chapter one of a kind. Don't be afraid to get outside of your comfort zone and ask for help. Our Sunshine Committee, I know a lot of you guys have it. They handwrite the thank you cards every month to our families for anniversaries, graduations, weddings, births, deaths. Our people give a huge time commitment, are willing to multitask and proudly spend time doing volunteer work. Our passion, this goes without saying, everyone in this room is here because they are passionate about this organization and its mission. And finally, our faith, family, and friends make this Illinois C.O.P.S chapter a success. So that's it. Hearing no questions, I'm moving on. All right, nobody's got any questions. That's great. Wait, a question? Oh, boy. I hope it's not a hard
lady
question.
today. Okay, I have a question on your National Police Week stuff. Sounds like you have it well covered. Your liaisons are really good and everything. I'm wondering how successful you are at getting your survivors to the C.O.P.S conference rather than touring DC. And if so, how do you do that?
Well, we struggle with that, right? Because a lot of our people hadn't ever been to DC, so they were like, well, we're going to go sightseeing. And I'm like, but you really need to go to this conference. And I can't say that we were hugely successful, but I think that the people that, one lady, it was just way too soon. She lost her husband in December. She tried to go to the conference and was uber overwhelmed, right? So she called me and she said, Kim, I tried, I couldn't do it. And I said, I get it, I totally get it. So, but there's no magic, there's no magic way to get people. We just encourage them and say, hey, look, this is, just start with this step. Just go, just see what it's about. I do think that you will meet, because I always encourage, hey, parents need to meet other parents, siblings need to meet other siblings, et cetera, coworkers, kids. So please go to these, but it's a huge struggle on our end. But like my liaisons, I wanted to make sure that, hey, please encourage these people to go. That's all you can do. You can't force them to go, but we had a pretty good success rate in getting people there. Go ahead, Dave.
It's just as part of the chapter, our liaisons do a great job of trying to get them to that event, and we can do that explanation. We have run into the political problem of a couple years ago, a chief of a very large town in Illinois said, no, you're not going to the conference, you're all going over here with us. And unfortunately, none of us had the power to, to say, no, chief. So that's sometimes that element. It was a very political year with things happening, but I think we're doing better by giving those liaisons a one-on-one. Here's your family. Here's why you need to go. So making a better contact early does a better job of getting them to the conference. Kim undersells herself. She does a lot for the chapter.
I ain't got
and
no
a lot
job.
of hard work for the chapter.
it.
So
That's all I do right here.
This is an easy question.
Yes.
So a coworker of mine, I think, might be part of your bike team, or an old coworker. I don't work anymore either. His name is Mickey Smith.
Yes.
Yeah, I worked with him. Yeah.
Is he Jane Groves?
Yes.
She did support for us.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, they're amazing.
They are.
So yeah, and great people. So very great. So yeah, she joined us for the first. I think he was a first-time rider too. Maybe
He's been riding for a while. But
he's done virtually 2 years. Jane, when we had, so officially, everybody listening, officially the ride did not happen COVID. Unofficially, one of the leaders said, hell no. And there's about 20 of us that the ride happened in COVID because part of it is that healing experience. Kim kind of alluded to it. I joke about it, but I leave a lot of anger on the road by the time the end of the ride. You can go through a year and see all this anger and bad people out there. The ride, you see the best people in the world. They will reach out to you and help you no matter what. So the ride is a very healing experience because all these great people on the ride. So it's a re-energize. yes, I'm a little passionate about the ride, so.
I'm not, if anybody wants to take it over. I'm joking.
Kim's at the front of the ride, and I'm at the back of the ride.
It's a lot of fun trying to get monkeys to follow directions, but it's fun. All right, hearing nothing else. I quit wearing a watch the day I retired, so I don't, I do that for a couple reasons. One, I'm lazy. Two, I didn't even see what time it was, so I don't care what